Welcome to the December 9th, 2024 regular meeting of Plymouth Township Council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, everybody. Our first order of business will be the swearing-in of new police officer, Michaela Franey. Okay.
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will enforce the laws of this Commonwealth and the ordinances of Plymouth Township, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. I do further swear that I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to a person's race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability. Congratulations.
Would you like to have some pictures with your family? Okay. Yes, yes, thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome. Good. There's no voice.
Mickey, you want to do it up here?
Yeah.
Put that lovely logo in the back. Come on up, Michaela. All right, one, two, three, eyes on me. Good, smile. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Take just a few minutes while the many family and supporters of our newest officer. All right, moving along, is there any public comment about the agenda itself? Hearing none, I'd like to announce that council held an executive session on November 6th and another on November 18th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the workshop meeting of November 6th, the regular meeting of November 11th, and the budget meeting of November 18th.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Vicio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Whitney. All those in favor? Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Mr. Nelson.
In favor.
Ms. Leonard.
In favor.
Ms. Vicio.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Is there a motion to approve the departmental reports and bills?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Vicio. We'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio.
In favor.
Mr. Nelson.
In favor.
Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Ms. Leonard.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Next on the agenda by our solicitor, Mr. Clark, 2025 budget ordinance, first and final consideration.
Thank you. Before the council this evening is an ordinance pursuant to Section 702D of the Home Rule Charter, adopting the operating and capital budgets, expenditures, and expenses for the fiscal year 2025, and levying a real estate tax on all property within the township for the fiscal year 2025 at the rate of 2.1 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, or the sum of 21 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation, and levying a separate assessment dedicated to the Plymouth Township Fire Services on all property within the township for the fiscal year 2025 at the rate of .845 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, or the sum of $8.45 on each $100 of assessed valuation. The Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, does hereby enact and ordain that pursuant to Section 702D of the Home Rule Charter, Council does hereby adopt the operating and capital budgets, expenditures, and expenses for fiscal year 2025. Section 2, pursuant to Section 702D of the Home Rule Charter, Council does hereby levy a tax on all real property within the township, subject to the taxation for fiscal year 2025 at a rate for general purposes in the sum of 2.1 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, or the sum of 21 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation, and levying a separate assessment dedicated to the Plymouth Township Fire Services on all property within the township for the fiscal year 2025 at the rate of .845 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, or the sum of 8.45 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation. Section 3 is the severability clause, and Section 4 indicates that this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon adoption. Ordained and enacted by the Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, this 9th day of December 2024, Council of Plymouth Township, by Karen R. Bramlett, Chair.
Is there a motion to adopt the budget ordinance for 2025?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Whitney. Any questions or comments from council? Questions or comments from the audience? All right, and just so you know, when we talk about assessing on the assessed value of property, that's not the market value of your property, it's what it was assessed eons ago. All right, hearing no comment, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. And I skipped over one announcement to be read by Mr. Nelson on our reorganization meeting.
Yes, so I'm just announcing the reorganization meeting, which will happen on Monday, January 6th, 2025, at 7:30 p.m. here in this building.
At 7:30 p.m. and the date are established by the homeroom charter, so that's a little unusual time. Next, by our solicitor, a sewer rate increase ordinance, first and final consideration.
Thank you. Before council this evening is an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Water, Sewers, and Sewage Disposal, Article 2, Sewers and Sewage Disposal, Division 3, Rates and Charges of the Plymouth Township Code, Ordinance 345 as amended, Section 23-43A, rentals or rates to increase the rentals and rates for sanitary sewage for metered water users within the township. The Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania does hereby enact and ordain Section 1, Article 2, Sewers and Sewage Disposal, Division 3, Rates and Charges, Section 23-43, Rentals or Rates, A, Conshohocken Area Sewer District and Plymouth Area Sewer District, Subsection 1, Rates for Metered Water Users of the Plymouth Township Code, Ordinance Number 345 as amended, shall be amended in its entirety as follows. Section 23-43, Rentals and Rates, the sewage collection charge for the first 7,000 gallons or less per quarter, a minimum of $29.06. All usage over 7,000 gallons per quarter per the additional 1,000 gallons will be an additional $2 charge. The sewage treatment charge applicable to all quantities of water consumed for the first 7,000 gallons or less per quarter, minimum will be $36.59. All usage over 7,000 gallons per quarter shall be an additional $2.58 per 1,000 gallons per quarter. Section 2, Sewage and Sewage Disposal, Division 3, Rates and Charges, Section 23-43, Rentals or Rates, Conshohocken Sewer District and Plymouth Area Sewer District, rates for non-metered water users of the Plymouth Township Code of Ordinances, number 345, as amended, shall remain the same as follows. The rates for non-metered water users, sewage collection charge shall be $37.43 per quarter. Sewage treatment charge shall be $47.07 per quarter. The township reserves the right to require the payment of additional charges for the collection and treatment of sanitary sewage from unmetered commercial, public, and industrial users. Section 3 is the effective date. Section 4 is the severability clause, and Section 5 is the severability clause, and Section 4 is that any other portions of the ordinance not changed by this amendment remain in effect. Ordained and enacted by the Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, this 9th day of December, 2024. Council of Plymouth Township by Karen R. Bramlett, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve the sewer rate increase ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any questions or comments from council? Any questions or comments from the audience? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio.
In favor.
Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Mr. Nelson.
In favor.
Ms. Leonard.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. All right, any other administrative matters? Ms. Weiss? Oh, that's right, sorry. One more ordinance to be read by Mr. Clark, the Historic District Ordinance Update.
Thank you. Before council this evening is an ordinance of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, amending Part 2, Chapter 7, Historic District of the Code of Ordinances of Plymouth Township to add certain definitions and to revise the procedure governing administrative reviews under certain circumstances in the historic district, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Whereas the Township of Plymouth has enacted a Code of Ordinances of Plymouth Township, which contains provisions governing the development of the historic district, and council will be considering amending the definition section, which is at section 7.3, to add a definition for contributing building structure, a definition for non-contributing building structure, a definition for minor project, and a definition for minor sign change. Council is also considering amending section 7-10 to amend the section entitled Application Review Process, it is amended to how the building inspector shall determine the work that will be done. Section 3 is the severability clause. Section 4 is an additional severability clause, and Section 5 is the effective date. Ordained and enacted by the Plymouth Township Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, on this 9th day of December 2024, by Karen R. Bramlett, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. And I've put my glasses on now, so I couldn't read before, sorry. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the Historic District Ordinance Update?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Whitney. Any questions or comments from council? And I would just comment that this ordinance update is mirroring what White Marsh Township has done to update the ordinance, and it's a joint board that serves on any of the changes or renovations that would be done to buildings that come under the historic district. Any questions or comments from the audience?
What is the historic district?
Historic district is the part of Plymouth meeting that is around the intersection of Germantown Pike and Butler Pike. The parts of it that would fall in Plymouth Township's area would be the, I believe, the Plymouth Friends Meeting House, the Livesey General Store that's up by the Turnpike, and certain buildings in that office complex that's there on the corner of Butler and Germantown. How far it extends up into White Marsh, up Germantown Pike, it definitely includes Abolition Hall. There are some bonds there, I believe. The Plymouth Church is within that, but there are specific boundaries. They're probably available on the internet. I'm just more familiar with the ones that fall precisely within Plymouth Township. But it's a joint board. Any other comments from the audience? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Okay, is that all under administration? Thank you. Next, under police and public safety, Chief.
Thank you. With the passing of the 2025 budget, I ask council's permission to appoint the next two eligible candidates from the Civil Service Commission certified list at the January meeting to fill two vacant positions in the police department. Thank you.
Is there a motion to hire the two next eligible people on the list as police officers for Plymouth Township?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Vizio, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Whitney. Any questions or comments from council? Questions or comments from the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Congratulations. All right, I didn't have my mic on that whole time. Next on the agenda, to be read by our solicitor, is the Harmonville Fire Company RACP grant resolution.
For council this evening is a revised resolution that is necessary due to the higher loan amount. This is a resolution of the Council of Plymouth Township of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, to recognize the Harmonville Fire Company number 1 station rebuild is funded by Plymouth Township in conjunction with the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program grant funding. Whereas the Harmonville Fire Company number 1 was awarded a grant from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Office of Budget of Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, otherwise known as RCAP funding. Such funding supports the demolition of the existing Station 2 and construction of a new firehouse with the ability to drive through the building, And whereas the Governor's Office of Budget authorized a release of $1,975,000 for this RCAP project under the Capital Budget Project Itemization Act, whereas the current estimate for the total project cost of the fire station rebuild is $5,570,512, using $1,975,000 of the RCAP grant, a $200,000 DCED grant, and $3.5 million of local match support. Now be it resolved that the Plymouth Township Council approves the availability of $3,500,000 held in the Wells Fargo bank account number ending in 7040 to serve as local matching fund support for the RCAP project. In witness whereof, the Plymouth Township Council adopted this resolution in lawful session this 9th day of December 2024, Plymouth Township Council by Karen R. Bramlett, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to adopt the Harmonville Fire Company RCAP grant resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any questions or comments from council? And this would be to fund the rebuilding of the Harmonville Firehouse that's located on Germantown Pike, not the one on Butler Pike. Any questions or comments from the audience? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Anything else on police or public safety, Chief?
I have nothing else, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, under Public Works, we have an announcement to be read by Mr. Whitney.
That time for the snow announcement again. We know you missed it. All right. Winter season reminders. It is unlawful to park or abandon a car on any street within 12 hours after a snowfall of 3 inches or more. Vehicles will be towed at the owner's expense. Use off-street parking when snow is predicted. When you park your car in the driveway, there's less snow to shovel. On-street parking only where no off-street parking is available is only permitted on the even-numbered side of the street in even years and on the odd-numbered side of the street in odd years. So for December, you would park on the even side. Come January, we will be on the odd side. Never approach moving snow removal equipment. Just because you can see the driver doesn't mean the driver can see you. We try to keep our crews fresh and rested, but extended weather emergencies can mean long hours for township employees. Please keep children and pets off the streets. Property owners are required to clear their sidewalks at least 30 inches wide within 36 hours after the snow stops. When shoveling your driveway, pile snow to the right. This will prevent the plow from covering your driveway opening again. Don't shovel or plow snow into the street. The plows will just move it back onto your driveway or sidewalk. If the plow has already passed, do not push snow from your driveway into the street. It will refreeze and create a hazard. If there's a fire hydrant by your home, consider adopting it. You know where it is. If it's obscured by snow, fire companies responding to emergencies may not find it. Clearing the snow from the hydrant helps protect you and your neighbors.
We have nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Next, under subdivision and land development, we have some items to take care of. First is by Ms. Vizio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a letter from Mr. Craig Lewis, representing 201 Plymouth Road LLC and SMG Hotels. That property is at 201 Plymouth Road. This is granting a further extension of the time frame within the council must act on an application, a land development approval application. This extends the time frame to up to and including December 31st, 2025, and I would move that we accept this extension.
Motion by Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any questions or comments from council or from the audience? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio.
In favor.
Mr. Nelson.
In favor.
Ms. Leonard.
In favor.
Ms. Vizio. I already did that.
Still in favor?
Mr. Whitney,
In favor.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, the next extension request will be read by Mr. Nelson.
Yes, I have another letter here from Craig Lewis, who's representing Kelman and Meliari Realty LLC, the owner of the property located at 2070 Butler Pike, Plymouth Road, Plymouth Meeting. Actually, I think it's just Butler Pike, Plymouth Meeting. They have filed an application seeking land development approval for the expansion of the existing office located on the property, and they are looking for a extension of their timeframe. So I would recommend, or I would so move to grant that extension.
All right, we have a motion to grant an extension to December 31st, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Vicio. Any questions or comments from council or from the audience? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Nelson?
In favor?
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Ms. Vicio?
In favor?
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Next request for extension is by Mr. Whitney.
Okay, I have a letter here from Edward Hughes in regards to the property at 1508 Sandy Hill Road, requesting an extension for their project until March 15th, 2025. I would make a motion that we grant this extension.
Motion by Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any questions or comments from council or from the audience? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Vicio?
In favor?
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. All right, this next item, under subdivision and land development, will be read by our solicitor.
Thank you. Before council this evening is a resolution. Be it resolved that Plymouth Township Council does hereby approve the preliminary final land development plan titled 2907 Jolly Road, Plymouth Township, prepared by the St. George Coptic Orthodox Church, hereinafter called the owner developer, prepared by Ludgate Engineering, dated March 6, 2024, last revised July 31st, 2024, consisting of sheets numbers 1 through 22, proposing the demolition of the existing Prince of Peace Church and proposing the construction of a new sanctuary and church office building having an address of 2907 Jolly Road and having a parcel number of 49-00-06004-00-4, land development application number 24-3, in accordance with said plans under and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner developer shall execute a public improvement agreement and memorandum of public improvement agreement as required by the subdivision and land development ordinance and pay all applicable fees and assessments, including but not limited to the following. A sanitary and storm sewer outfall fee of $7,500 based upon 75 new parking spaces. B, a traffic impact fee to be determined. C, a park and recreation fee in an amount to be determined, if any. D, a sewer connection fee in accordance with the connection fee and EDU schedule in effect at the time of the application for connection and payment. 2, that the owner developer shall prepare revised plans to comply with the requirements, comments as set forth in the October 7th, 2024 report of Carroll Engineering Corporation, the Township Traffic Engineer, attached to this resolution, to the satisfaction and approval of the said traffic engineer. 3, that the owner developer shall prepare revised plans to comply with the requirements, comments as set forth in the September 18th, 2024 report of Carroll Engineering Corporation, the Township Sanitary Sewer Engineer, attached to this resolution, to the satisfaction and approval of the said sanitary sewer engineer. 4, that the owner developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the September 10th, 2024 report of Woodrow and Associates, the Township Engineer, attached to this resolution, except to the extent that waivers are granted herein, to the satisfaction and approval of said Township Engineer. 5, that the owner developer shall obtain all required permits and approvals from the Sewer Authority, a DEP sewage planning facility module waiver, the water company with jurisdiction over the property, and a highway occupancy permit from Plymouth Township and a highway occupancy permit from Montgomery County if needed. 6, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the November 6, 2024 report of the Plymouth Township Planning Agency and the November 21, 2024 report of the Montgomery County Planning Commission, each attached to this resolution, to the satisfaction and approval of the aforesaid Township Zoning Officer. 7, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plan to list all waivers granted and notes required by this resolution if needed. 8, prior to the issuance of any permits, all outstanding legal, engineering, and administrative fees applicable to this land development must be paid by the owner-developer. 9, this approval is subject to the fulfillment of all of the foregoing conditions in their entirety, and no permit shall be issued, nor shall any development take place on the property unless and until all such conditions are fulfilled. Further resolved that the owner-developer shall either be granted or denied the following waivers from the terms of the Plymouth Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance of 1980 as amended, and from the Plymouth Township Zoning Ordinance of March 16, 1960, Ordinance 352 as amended. The applicant is seeking waivers from these two sections. Article 5, Section 503.1.c, to allow sidewalks along Jolly Road to be replaced with less than a 5-foot sidewalk. And B, Article 5, Section 503.2a, to waive the requirements that the concrete curbing along Jolly Road must be removed and replaced. Duly presented and adopted by Plymouth Township Council at a public meeting held on the 9th day of December, 2024, Plymouth Township, by Karen R. Bramlett, Chair. And Council, the appropriate motion this evening would be to make a motion to approve this resolution and then to indicate whether you are granting or denying one or both of the waivers.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, is there a motion to adopt the resolution and to grant each of the waivers, one, to allow the sidewalk along Jolly Road to be less than 5 foot wide, and also to waive the requirement that the concrete curbing not be removed and replaced? Is it okay to have done it that way?
It is fine. If somebody wants to make a motion to deny one or both of them, they can.
Is there a motion as stated?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Vizio, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any questions or comments from council? All right, and this is the church on Jolly Road that's across from the community center. It was a church. It's going to be replaced by a new church of a new denomination. Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, we will take a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio.
In favor.
Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Mr. Nelson.
In favor.
Ms. Leonard.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. All right, next we have an application for extension at Royal Farms. Mr. Whitney.
Right, I have a letter here from Neil Stein in regards to the application of 2 farms, otherwise known as Royal Farms, at 906 Ridge Pike, requesting an extension to April 30th, 2025. I would make a motion that we grant this extension.
Motion by Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Vizio. Any questions or comments from council or from the audience? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Ms. Vizio.
In favor.
Ms. Leonard.
In favor.
Mr. Nelson.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Taking action on the Plymouth Town Apartments?
Today, we received the $25,000 cash escrow to cover the 2 items in Mr. Woodrow's letter. so that you can do a final escrow release, and the original letter of credit could be returned.
All right, thank you, Ms. Weiss. All right, Plymouth Town Apartments by Mr. Whitney.
All right. I have a letter here from Timothy Woodrow in regards to the Plymouth Town Apartments Phase 2 escrow release, saying that there is enough work completed to date to release $391,718.16 of escrow, and I believe this will cover the rest of the project from this original release. So I would make a motion that we grant this escrow release.
Motion by Mr. Whitney, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Leonard. Any questions or comments from council? Any from the audience? Hearing none, we will take a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Final item under subdivision and land development by Ms. Vizio.
Thank you. I have a escrow release memo. This is from Mr. Timothy Woodrow regarding the property at 2622 Butler Pike, escrow release number 6. Based on field observations of work completed to date, it was found that sufficient work was completed to release the amount of $77,543.90. By releasing that amount, the project escrow will be reduced to $104,399.12, and I would make a motion that we release that amount.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any questions or comments from council? Any from the audience? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Mr. Nelson?
In favor.
Ms. Leonard?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. We have nothing under code enforcement tonight. And next will be a reading of the upcoming zoning hearings by Ms. Vizio.
We have the following appeal applications scheduled for the December 16th, 2024 Zoning Hearing Board hearing. First, John Karmansky, a variance, wants to build a 24 by 36 garage at 731 Woodbrook Lane in a B residential zoning district. The second is Vandalay Industries, LLC, for special exception and variances, permit use of an indoor sports training facility and a variance from the required number of parking spaces. Permit the proposed use as a use of the same general character as a physical fitness center. This is at 105 Davis Drive in a limited industrial zoning district.
Thank you, Ms. Vizio. Next are upcoming events and under Parks and Recreation, Ms. Leonard.
The winter brochure for the GPCC is out now. The Plymouth Township Parks and Recreation gift cards are available for the holidays until 12/31. They make great holiday gifts. There's a Winter Waterland toy drive at the pool Friday, 12/13. Breakfast with Santa is Saturday, 12/14. The GPCC Holiday Eve programming, the holiday programming is through 12/24 through 12/31 when all the kids are off school. GPCC saved the date for the 25th anniversary celebration on Saturday, March 29th. Veterans banners are still available for purchase at GPCC Park, and the deadline is April 1st for that. And winter program sponsorships are available through January.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard. We have some announcements of citizen board vacancies. The Property Maintenance Code Appeals Board has 3 positions open. The Human Relations Commission has 1 position open, and the Environmental Advisory Board has 1 position open. Any resident wishing to serve on these citizen boards is asked to submit their resume or a letter stating their interest to the Township Manager, 700 Belvoir Road, Plymouth Meeting, 19462, or by email to our Township Manager, kweiss@plymouthtownship.org. Final item on our regular agenda is an update on Cunnytown by Mr. Whitney.
All right. I'm going to start off with some updates on the crosswalk. So on November 25th, we spoke with the property owner whose permission is needed, and he said the right of entry form would be signed and returned soon, and we can confirm that that was returned today. So we now have the right of entry form. On November 15th, the traffic signal permit plan was signed and submitted by the township. And I can confirm that Carroll Engineering received the traffic signal permit today. So we now have both of those. As a reminder, there were the 15 conditions that need to be met for PennDOT for this project. The 2 that must be met before we put the project out to bid were the right of entry and the traffic permit. So we're going to submit those to PennDOT and get their permission to proceed with putting the project out to bid. So that's our next step. In regards to the guide rail, on November 26th, we spoke with PennDOT guide rail section. They are looking at this request very carefully. They have been on site and made measurements. They have requested utility clearances. They have to consider the I-476 piers. This is not a typical request. Nothing fits for a standard guide rail application. The PennDOT engineer is still working on a plan that will be sent to his boss for approval. In regards to connectivity to Conshohocken, on November 21st, we met with Maureen Farrell of the Greater Valley Forge Transportation Management Association and spoke with Stephanie Shecko, the borough manager, on November 12th. The GVFTMA, Transnet, and the Borough of Conshohocken have a tri-party agreement that goes through December 2025. So this is in relation to the Conshohocken cab. No additional stops can be made until that agreement has expired. It's unlikely that another stop in Plymouth Township will be added, as it already stops at Plymouth Garden Apartments and Plymouth Park Apartments. Too many stops mean longer wait times for the cab. The borough pays $200,000 per year for the cab. Most of that money goes to Transnet, who provides the vehicle and the driver. GVF helps with marketing, the mobile app, which lets you know where the cab is, / how long until it reaches your stop. Study trends, the RFP, contracts, and planners. Anyone can ride the country cab for $2 fare. Children 17 and under are free if accompanied by an adult, and seniors ages 65 and older are free with a SEPTA pass. You are allowed to bring a folded up stroller, but no pets. General updates, on November 20th, the November update was added to the township website. And then back in November, all 5 members of council did a walkthrough with members of the neighborhood and took all your concerns. So we've put that into a list, and we're reaching out to the department heads on the respective department heads for each issue to figure out what the township is capable of addressing and getting timelines and future plans for those.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitney.
Can I have that in writing, or can you send me an email with that?
About the,
What you just read. Thanks. What he just read will go on the website as the update.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Yes, thanks.
All right, is there any audience participation at this time? All right. Thank everybody for coming. This meeting is now adjourned.